Right?
Is that steak? Somebody's feet.
That was my feet.
Hello and welcome to another Loyalty Cup review. Today we're going to be talking about the Boots Riley written and directed Sorry to Bother You. First, I'm Richie.
Second, I'm Sean.
Third, I'm Andy.
Our reviews typically start with a spoiler-free impressions of the movie. Then after the jump, we spoil. We're no good. Sniff test doesn't pass.
Fuzzy on the top.
Andrew,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us what this movie's about?
So Sorry to Bother You is an absurdist comedy. It takes place in Oakland, California. It's about this main character, Cash, who rises in the ranks of the telemarketing company after realizing he can use his white voice to elicit a positive response from his customers. And the movie goes from there, and it's basically about capitalism and inequality and race and a whole bunch of other things. And it's kind of dark and very absurd, and it's going to split audiences.
Is Andy going to just do the rest of the video himself? Does it feel
Take it
like
from here,
he's...
pal.
Okay.
I'd rather not.
All right, Sean, I'm gonna shoot to you. What did you think about this movie?
I thought the movie looked great. The acting was awesome. It was very theatrical. It was hip. It was fresh. Lots of quirks.
That sounds sarcastic.
That's fine. It was a fine film. A lot of cool cameos.
Terry Crews is pretty great in it.
Terry Crews is
Terry
pretty
Crews is
great.
great in everything.
Underused.
Yeah.
Underused.
It was almost cheap throwing Terry Crews in there.
You gotta have Terry Crews in
Yeah.
this movie. You gotta have him.
Gotta have him, and they did.
Andy, what'd you think?
I came out of the theater liking it, and I thought it was brilliant and original and covered a lot of bases. And after a day or two of thinking about it, I realized that may have been the film's downfall. It covered too much. It lured audiences in by this promise of a dialogue about race and inequality and this idea of a white voice. And David Cross and Patton Oswalt are used as white voices, and they're hilarious comedians. I thought it was a very pointed, singular thing. And then the movie kind of derails and turns into a movie about 5 other topics. And so I'm a little conflicted about that, and I think I'm walking away with it thinking it's a great first film by Boots Riley, and it was very inventive for certain things, but ultimately it lost its focus, and for me it fails because of that.
As a whole.
Yeah.
As a whole, really?
Yeah.
See, okay, and so that's good because I feel like we have these 3 progressions going on here, and I think I have similar issues as both of you guys. But I think maybe it never overcomes its messaging problems. But I think overall the film is so fun. It's so infectious. It's actually funny. There was this like what the frick moment. Censorship. I feel like I hadn't experienced in a film in a long time. We won't get into it. First, let's jump into spoilers. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'll just come out with the what the frig moment.
With the fridge.
The horse,
Horsemen.
the Bojacks. Those were I just like was not expecting that turn whatsoever. I was ready for some sort of body horror thing to happen, but when that
Why?
horse came out and started like
Why were you ready for some body horror to happen?
because they kind of give you the clues to that. Like you see just the top of this person's head, help me. It sounded like
Well, I think previously in the movie too, they addressed capitalism and enslavement, and
Yeah.
these people voluntarily becoming enslaved in prisons to work for the rest of their lives in exchange for food and shelter, right? And so when he goes to use the bathroom and you see the guy's head in the stall, as you mentioned, you almost think it's like
he's
just
gonna
a
be
man
missing
slaved up,
arms,
right?
or or he's gonna be beat or something.
Why were they there?
Maybe that was a testing ground or something.
Yeah, they couldn't expand their.
was
That
like-
is funny that
it was
it's
like-
all in one building.
like-
the same place they party is the same place they
it's like
keep all the Bojacks.
Batman has a mansion, but his Batcave is beneath it. It's like this
Yeah.
ultra-rich guy has a mansion, and he just does his crazy genetic experiments in his basement or something.
It's ego. It's ego. On that, the ego of Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer, all the performances in here, incredible.
Yeah.
Armie Hammer's hilarious. The main actor, Lakeith Stanfield, I love him in Get Out. I love him in Atlanta. He's perfect in this because in Atlanta, that character interacts with magical realism the most. So for him to be in this surreal setting is it's perfect. Yeah, but I mean Tessa Thompson, A-list, all A-list.
She as an actress stole the show in my mind, but the character sucked.
Yeah.
It was there for almost no reason at all, just as a little side gag of a girlfriend for the main guy.
Well, yeah, like the sort of love triangle that starts to take place.
Pointless.
Yeah, like nothing comes of it by the end.
Yeah, that was just there to like get me like upset about this snake coming in here, and like what he just creates unions everywhere he goes.
The
He was, like-
squeeze.
yeah,
The squeeze,
squeeze in there. Is he the main squeeze, the side squeeze? get out of here with that side plot. Like, it was annoying. That whole side story, like, didn't paint her in a good light, and I'm not trying to, like, slut shame and all that. Like, she's free to go sleep. I guess that's what they were trying to say. She can go sleep with whoever she wants. She's an independent woman. I don't know. There's so many messages in this movie that I'm sure everything happens for a reason to further that message, and it's just I'm not hip to a lot of the issues in this movie that they kind of just annoy me. You know what I mean? They're just there for more dialogue, more little mini subplots and stuff like that. That it's kind of hard to follow why people are doing certain things because each one kind of has something to do with a different message.
So let's touch kind of briefly on the messaging. We're going to have a whole separate video actually where we dive deep on what some of these ideas that it's trying to flesh out. I mean, I tend to agree with you in that there are a lot of ideas that don't get fleshed out. They're kind of just thrown in there. I like how they're treated individually, this idea that you can be irreverent about it, right? It's a very serious subject, but we'll just kind of make a joke about it or kind of throw in a really interesting allegory. I think the white voice thing I think it's awesome. I think the way that it's portrayed, I think the way that it's executed with it actually being done pretty poorly, and it's very obviously other people's voice. It's very obviously David Cross's voice. I think that's done really well. But as a whole, I do just see like one idea after the other getting thrown and giving not a lot of focus.
Because I like the movie, but it's just so busy with all these like current issues that it just becomes kind of clouded and bogged down and a little heavy-handed to the point where it's annoying. It's just so much thrown at me while I'm also trying to enjoy this fun film. I'm also just getting deluge of just messages.
For me, the fact that Cash can literally bank on the fact that he can change his voice into a white voice and capitalize off that's enough of an interesting movie for me, and I think enough of an eye-opener for a wide audience that may not realize that happens in real life.
And then they drag that one point home. Yeah. As opposed to...
That would have been a strong movie.
Yeah.
Instead, they dilute that by introducing all these other concepts that are equally as important. You have social commentary, wage inequality, capitalism, industrialism, all that fun stuff, but it dilutes the main thing that brought audiences to the film, and I think it suffers because of that.
See, I don't think the main thing is the white voice thing, though. I think the main thing is the one that you mentioned, is this idea of wealth inequality and how it interplays with sort of like identity politics, right? And I think that idea, it does have some nuance to it, and maybe that's why I was able to enjoy it a little bit more, because when I watch Cash and his relationship to this company and his relationship to his co-workers and the people that I think are part of his community, right? I think there is some nuance there in how he flip-flops back around and where he chooses and what he's trying to choose. Where it lands is kind of messy. It's kind of like he just chooses the man until he finds out the man like does something so disgusting that he's got to go back to the other side.
Yeah, and that actually wasn't believable for me. Based on his character up to that point, I figured he would have taken the 100 mil. Yeah. Why didn't he? Because he's so easy to sell out his friends, his girlfriend, under this guise of trying to help his uncle, who's almost forced to joining the worry-free prison, commune, whatever. But he's also very happy to spend all this money on himself. He's a very selfish character. I mean, he does pay his uncle back, but then he moves out. We don't really see that anymore. We literally just see him hand his uncle a check and move out. So why wouldn't he take the 100 mil? What is his motivation for turning that down?
Well, and the weird thing is his girlfriend does the same thing. She at one point says, if you're going to continue down this path, I can't be with you. But yet she has a white voice. She's selling artwork about Africa to white people who have a lot of money to spend. Yeah. And that's equally as problematic.
She's putting this meaning to it. Like when he asks, why Africa? And she just starts spouting off, why? And it's like, okay, well, how do we... These are just words, you know what I mean? There's no action behind it. It's literally like he says, you're just selling this culture to people. They're all very selfish.
I think, that is part of the messaging of the movie, though. That Tessa Thompson is a hypocrite in one way or another. Because, you definitely see her employ her own version of a white voice. I won't disagree with you. There is just a lot getting thrown at the wall that muddles the messaging. And I think it's funny because I got out of it, and this is the second video now where I'm going to mention my girlfriend, but I text her. I'm like, hey, I watched the movie. I really liked it. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would, though. And she's like, oh, why? And I really didn't know or understand why. it's weird because I feel like I'm primed to like this sort of movie. So there's this new crop of art that's being made that really deals with racial inequality in one way or another. And a lot of it that I'm seeing and consuming, I think is so interesting and so beautiful. The music videos that Jay-Z is doing, Atlanta. If you guys watch a single episode of Atlanta, I think the messaging on an episode to episode basis, it's kind of episodic, is so much stronger. It's so much more concise and so much more powerful. At the end of an episode of Atlanta, I'm kind of left like racking my brain trying to understand how I feel about it. But I'm always left feeling like I grew a little bit. I came to understand a little bit more. Whereas this movie, I come out of it and I think maybe it has a little bit to say about the wealth inequality idea, but in the end, I don't think I learned a lot more about it. I don't think I grew any, or that my mind expanded because of what this movie had to show me.
Well, and I think, as I mentioned off screen, I think the director views this as activism. If he presents the ideas, that's equal to planting the seed in people's minds. He doesn't have to go much beyond talking about it to ideally raise awareness and be an advocate for change.
It's making me aware of too many things without making me learn anything about any one of those very effectively.
Well, is it supposed to be a cautionary tale? Because you have Google, Amazon, Apple, that has these production facilities or worker situations that aren't ideal. Is this just supposed to be a call towards that?
And if it is, it's kind of a cliche. Like, don't trust the man because you don't know what's behind the curtain. Like, we've been down the Yellow Brick Road, we've seen behind Oz's curtain. Like, that was done so many years ago. Like, if that is the overall message, I agree that it's kind of weak.
Is it a slavery or a metaphor for slavery then? Because Tessa's character says, "Oh, go off to your slave auction party."
Yeah.
And they drop a few hints that allude to that, but
I mean, I got the vibe from this, and I kind of keep going back to this point in these reviews that I'm feeling like more and more movies are just targeted towards a much younger audience, and that this would be a great film for someone just getting out of their parents' house, starting the 9-to-5, lifestyle, and realizing, really taking a moment to think, what is your time getting you? And what is it getting everyone else? Are you being taken advantage of? Are you being exploited? And for what? And how can you educate yourself so you're not so...
You don't
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. It's almost like there was a time in my life where I hadn't seen Blood Diamond since like it came out on DVD, right? But when I watched Blood Diamond, that to me as a young person was like eye-opening, like, what? This is going on? Like, oh, and then I kind of dug into it further, and I could see this for a young person. This is like a flight of social inequality and civil rights issues, right? Yeah. So you get a little taste of everything, but you also get it in a killer package. We keep harping on this movie, and it's tough because, and I said all the bad stuff up front because I really want to talk about how much I really enjoyed it. Because I do land favorable towards this movie. I really liked it. Yeah,
and with all my issues with it, I do as well. And I think, like you said, it is a nice little primer for, the youth, basically, to get a palatable serving of what is actually going on, and that they may not realize it. And so for that, I applaud it. It's great to kind of open the eyes of the younger working generation who may feel disenfranchised by what they have to do. Their 9-to-5 and having to provide for themselves now, leaving their parents' house, and having to really be responsible for themselves, and kind of give them a taste of what they can do as, the working class, entering that class. You can unionize, you can realize that things are not the way they should be, and you can do something to change that. And for that, I applaud it. It's good to give people hope that this is not everything that they're meant to be. You're more than your job, and you can still do the 9-to-5 and feel that you're appreciated and that you're working towards something and that you are being compensated. And I think that's a good message.
Well, and I think what the points that you guys brought up, it is inflected in the movie multiple times, both with stick to the script, the civil disobedience, the fact that Armie Hammer wants to hire Cash to be a plant to make sure his workhorses don't go off track. And I think these are all ideas that, it is counterculture. It is going against the man, going against the industrial complex, so to say. And a lot of those ideas come out in the forefront and kind of, overshadow any of the racial tension in the movie for me.
I'm gonna go through a quick lightning round of everything I loved about this movie, because I did love a lot about this movie. I thought it was hilarious gag where they just keep complimenting each other instead of arguing. I think the art direction is really strong. I love how colorful, how vibrant it all is, but yet there's still like an edge. There's a grunginess to it that I think is a really cool aesthetic. The costuming is super killer. Mm-hmm. Tessa Thompson's character feels like if you scrunched up a Spike Lee script into one character, you know, that's what it feels like. Like she's like this newer generation of She's Gotta Have It, even though She's Gotta Have It does have a new show out right now. So I love the VIP sequence, right? He goes to check this out to see how the grass is greener on the other side. It's total crap.
He gets a beer spilled on him.
Yeah, he gets out. He still is like, it was awesome. You know, it's a tiny microcosm of what happens in the whole movie. I also read that the desks and how it drops into the scene, I think that was a totally practical effect. They just had buff dudes kind of pick everything up and then drop the desks.
Horsemen just picked it up.
Yeah, they had these BoJack horsemen just pick it up and drop it. And so like him like trying to hold on to everything is him actually just kind of riffing on however things end up landing. It's a lot of fun to watch, and you can tell everyone that's a part of it is having a lot of fun one way or another. Armie Hammer, more people have to see Armie Hammer. I don't think he's in enough stuff. He's in a lot of stuff, not enough stuff. I like Armie Hammer. He's
What stuff is
handsome.
he in?
He's in A Man from U.N.C.L.E., a Guy Ritchie movie. I trust that you're on the internet, so you can look up where these are.
I would hope so.
I'm gonna tell Sean off screen.
I don't
I'm
have
sorry.
the internet.
Until
not
we
gonna
release
make it-
these on VHS.
That's a struggle for us with Sean. He doesn't have the internet, and so we have to tell him everything when he comes in.
They don't.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I want to say vivacious. The movie's like vivacious. The movie's like sexy.
It's electric. It
It
really
is,
is.
yeah.
Woogie woogie woogie.
It's a book.
It's fizzy. It's pop. It's
It snaps, it crackles, my guy, it pops.
It's
It's
electric.
hip. It has to be. I mean, no, I think it was a good film with a strong message. Strong messages. I think
5 films in one.
A lot of important messages, but I don't necessarily think it makes it an important film. I think it's a fine film. It's cool. It looks great. The acting is awesome. I just wish that they would stay more focused on one thing as opposed to so many, because the message ends up getting diluted and certain things are lost on me, which may be my fault as a viewer that can't really pay attention to that many things. But I think that's similar to a lot of other people who may be watching this movie. What do you think?
I agree. I think it was an ambitious film, but for me, it would have worked better as like a miniseries or a trilogy of short films or something. Trying to pack all that into like an hour and 45 minutes or whatever it ended up being made it a muddled film. And it deserves better than that, and it really sucks that you walk out of the theater not knowing what to think, because it covers so much ground.
But is it the movie's obligation to tell you what to think?
See, and that's where I land.
No, it's not, but they didn't flesh out enough the concepts for me.
I still think it's a must-watch because of how inventive and how beautiful of a movie it is in of itself. The packaging is amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool movie-going experience. You know, see it in the theaters because it looks great.
If you're looking for something with a little bit of more of a focus on the messaging, then go watch Atlanta. Go watch Get Out. Dear White People. That's a really great series, a really great movie. This one, on the other hand, I think is more watchable than all of those. Okay, that's gonna do her. We had a lot of fun, guys. We learned some things. We grew a little.
Armie Hammer is 6'5".
He's a large man.
Yeah.
He's also very handsome. I can't say enough about Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer, come be on our show. I wish you and yours the very best. Good night.